Okay. Priyanka,
Okay, so yeah, so
you go to this
so can
Java JDK bin folder and take this whole path into copy.
yeah,
Okay.
I did that. Yeah.
And then go to computer, right click, properties. Okay. You see this window?
Okay, yeah.
Advanced system setting. You have thing called advanced system settings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go to environment variables.
Okay.
You find a path here in the system variable. Just see on the variable side, you will find a path.
Right.
Edit that. Okay. You're able to get this window.
Yes.
Okay. Now go to the last. Go to the end of this variable value.
Okay.
Put a semicolon at the end, and then you paste this
Okay.
and say OK. Okay. Now again open a new terminal like this. Again CMD and put a Java C. And see, you're able to see this. No, 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 no. You should not do that, Lavanya. No, you cannot delete a path variable, Lavanya. Hello.
Oh, okay.
Don't
Yes,
do
I'm
that
getting.
because it will have the system path also. You cannot delete that path. You just need to append it. That's it. Okay. I
Oh,
think maybe you have. I think my understanding. You have messed the system now. I'm not sure. So at least try. You're able to see CMD and these things are coming on the system. I don't think Lavanya will have a problem now. Okay. Coming to Priyanka, you're able to see this now. No. Okay. I'm going to make it the presenter. Hold on. Okay. Try to share your screen, please. Priyanka, can you share your screen? I made you presenter. I have opened the path, the system variable path.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, yes. Go to the. Oh, what is this? Okay. Go to system advanced system settings, environment variables, path, edit. Okay. Not GRE bin. I asked to take JDK bin. I think you took the wrong. Try to see my screen properly, Priyanka. I told you to pick the JDK. You're not seeing my screen then. See, I was referring a JDK here. You took a wrong one. No program files x86. It's program files. Okay, one thing I want to tell you. Program files is a 64-bit and program files x86 is that is a where are you? Go to hold on. No, hold on. You have to go inside the bin.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Remove that, whatever you have done. Yeah. I asked you to open a new terminal. I asked you to open a new terminal. This won't
Oh,
work.
okay.
Oh my God, it's very slow. Okay. Anyway, okay. Now put Java. Okay, let me show you that again. Now I think you can put Java. Just say Java. Yeah. Enter. Yeah. Your environment is set. Okay. Lavanya, can you share your screen? Lavanya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Open a terminal. Say Java C. Okay, Java. Yeah, your environment is set. Anybody has still the problem on this call? I think everybody are able to see that what
Hello,
Priyanka. Yeah, who is this?
hello. This is Kaya.
Tell me, Kia. Okay, let me
Uh,
try to see your screen now. Okay, can you share your screen once?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Go open a terminal. Leave all those things. Leave all those things. Open a
Yeah.
terminal.
I don't means from run option.
Yes, yes. Put CMD.
Sorry.
Java C. Yeah, Java. Yeah, I think you have the setup ready because I think I remember we have done the setup on your system last session. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Just the thing. Just Arvind. Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I try to do this. I try to do this now. Going into the program files and then Java and then JDK, and then bin. But I don't see that path up in here.
Just click
Why
on
it's like a
why just click on the end. Click on the end. No, no,
N?
no. In this see, I'll show you. Wait, hold on. Hold on, let me show. Now you're able to see this, no? Okay, hold on, I'll show you that. Just click. You have this PC, this thing, no? On that, you have address bar, right? You're able to see this PC, C drive, program files. What is it? Java,
Yes.
JDK. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
after the bin, just click your mouse. Now you see, got
Yeah.
it? Got it?
Oh, okay. Yes, I got it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Who is this?
Yeah, Lavanya.
Tell me, Lavanya.
Why we are typing Java C there? I didn't get it.
Okay, I'm coming there. Hold on. Okay. So if Kaya, I'll take the control now. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So one thing is, try to listen what I'm saying, because I see repetitive questions again and again coming back. If you don't understand that, ask me right in the same place, because I was telling about Java and Java C in my last previous session. Even I explained before now also what is JDK and what is GRE. So I will explain you. So very simple, Java C is basically Java compilation, right? You write the code and you're compiling it. And Java is basically you're trying to execute your code. So you're trying to give this code to Java runtime environment. As I see, you find two folders, as I told you in the beginning also, right? In the beginning in this session, JDK is a Java development kit. GR is Java runtime environment. So JDK basically it is the it's environment where you develop the code or you write the code and compile it. And JRE is basically where once you whatever the code you compile successfully, you give that code to this JRE to basically execute it. Okay, so that is what Java C is basically referring to JDK, where you compile your code using that command, and Java is basically you execute the code using this command. So last session we were talking about. Hold on. Okay, we were compiling this code, right? And where is the code here? Let me go open the code now. This was a code we have written last session. Okay, and so to answer, Lavanya, you got the answer, or you still have a question on that? Why Java and Java C?
Yeah, I got the answer.
You got the answer. Okay, so Java is basically to execute and Java C is basically to compile. Okay, so for Lavanya, I have a question here. So what is the difference between a byte code and executable code?
No idea.
No idea. How come? Okay, let me move to Kea. What is the difference between
Yes,
a executable code and a byte code?
byte code, when the byte code is going into the Java virtual machine, then only it gets converted into executable code.
Okay. Okay, amazing,
And
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, very good answer. So yeah, so but what is the difference? I got your point. So you are saying that bytecode will be converted to executable code when it given to the JVM. That's very good answer. But how you can showcase if somebody asks this question in interview, how you going to answer this?
Mhm.
How you going to answer this?
Bytecode, it is not executable unless it is bytecode is cannot be executed in operating system until and unless it goes into JVA, a virtual machine.
Amazing, very good, Kaya. Amazing answer here. So yeah, to answer properly, executable code is a code which runs on an operating system because it is aligned with the requirement of the operating system. But bytecode is something which is not understandable with the operating system, but it is understandable with the JVM. So and so that the JVM will take a headache of converting this bytecode to the executable code. But this bytecode is something which is understandable by JVM. That is where we say Java platform independent, because the JVM will take the headache of converting to that particular native operating system understandable code. Okay, so this is the right answer. Let me move to Lavanya again.
Yes, sir.
So what is a abstraction, Lavanya?
sorry.
It's the design or interface is exposed for the end user, which the implementation is held in the back.
Okay.
We couldn't see. Only the design or interface is exposed for the end user.
Okay, that's nice, Lavanya. So, okay, so let me move to Nirmala here. Nirmala, how you define encapsulation?
It's controlling the access of data. It's otherwise defined as controlling access of data, data and functionality.
That's it.
Whatever I've taken.
Okay. So, okay, let's move to Priyanka. Let's move to Priyanka here. Priyanka, you have anything to add to Nirmala here? Priyanka, you are there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, what is encapsulation? You know the answer or no?
No, actually, sorry.
Okay. So let me go back to Drupal. Drupal, what is encapsulation?
It's like internally process, like if you dial the number, so you can dial the number, and no design interface. It's not coding.
No, very bad answer for this question. I'm going back to Kea. What is encapsulation, Kea?
And hello.
Yeah.
I don't know, Arvind, what is encapsulation?
Okay. So you have not gone through the
I'm
first
sorry.
video.
Oh, sorry. No.
Okay. So Lavanya, you know the answer?
Yeah, it's the process of wrapping code and data into.
Hello?
Yeah, it's a process of wrapping code and data together into a single unit.
No bookish definition, Lavanya. I have clearly told what is encapsulation on my first session. I am not sure why you are not able to answer this question, because it was clearly explained to you what everybody was on the call. I think maybe Kia was not there. So I see Lavanya, everybody there, and I was telling you very clearly what is encapsulation. As Kia told, abstraction, sorry, not Kia. So when who told me about abstraction here? Maybe Nirmala. Yeah, Nirmala. I don't know. So.
I said about abstraction.
Yeah, okay. So as you said, okay, so let me see. Okay, so let me explain you a little bit again, because I don't see any sense moving from here if you don't able to understand what is abstraction and encapsulation. So let me again explain this, because the concepts are very important to understand here, because if you don't understand the concept, I don't see any sense of teaching Java here. Okay, so as abstraction is something which is a design or interface which is exposed to the end user, but as somebody told, you dial something, and so let me take a mobile example here only. So as soon as you take your phone, what you do is basically you try to dial some number, right? So if you want to call somebody on the phone, you try to basically take the dialer, but you just click the dialer button, and then there's a dialing pad will come where you have some blank, some empty box. In bottom you have some numbers to dial, and then you'll have that calling button on the phone. So what you do, you dial your number with these buttons, and then you put a calling. And but thing is that that is something which an end user sees, and you won't care about how this call carry forward from the phone to your friend or somebody who's trying to call, you're trying to call. So you don't care about that. So that is how the abstraction comes, where you're only giving an interface for the end user to basically use it, but you're not asking him to bother about how this is implemented. But somebody is there to basically take this input and or take that headache or take that whole processing thing and process that in a workflow by taking the input, converting that number to some kind of signal and connecting to the nearest tower, from that nearest tower to that tower. Some kind of process happened in the back. So there is some business logics or some implementation has to be done as soon as he dial that calling button, right? So once he call the dialing button, there'll be somebody in the back who takes that input, process it, or implement it, or write, or take that input to a required functionality, and then connect that to the phone. So that backer, the person who takes that input and process it and who implement it basically is an encapsulation. So abstraction is a design or interface exposed to the end user, but the real implementation is done at the back, that is called encapsulation. That is where we are talking about class, we are talking about attributes, we are talking about methods or actions, we are talking about objects, we are talking about a lot of stuff. We discuss a lot of stuff on this term. So whatever we are talking about, a class or object or attributes or methods, these are all encapsulation. Whatever we are talking about, encapsulation, because whatever the interface which is exposed to the end user, even though end user is nowhere, he should not bother about how that implementation is done. He only exposed with the interface, but still somebody should be there who can take that headache to process the input and get the functionality done. So that headache will be taken care by encapsulation. Encapsulation is nothing but a real implementation of the design which got exposed from the abstraction. Any questions here? Anybody has any questions?
Hello.
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah. I got about what does it mean, encapsulation, but I just didn't get what the extraction means. Is getting the data from the front end user into the
See the front end, yeah, that's a very good, that's a front end, right? Front end is nothing but a design, right? Front end is something like an abstraction, like where you're only seeing some buttons and you're seeing something which you are planning to use it, but you don't know how that buttons are being processed, how the dialing is being processed, and how you're able to enter that number. You don't know how it is done. Only thing, one interface has been exposed to you and you're using that interface to basically fulfill your requirements. So that interface, what you're seeing, the design, what you're seeing is nothing but abstraction. Okay.
Okay.
Got it. So once that abstraction,
Yes.
once the front end has been exposed, you try to use that front end, right? When you're trying to use that front end, somebody should be there in the back, should process this based on the input coming from your front end. So that is nothing but encapsulation. Is that clear? Okay. So it's basically
Yes.
what happens is it's like we'll have there's a very thin difference we see from the abstraction and because both are interrelated and both overlap each other. If you see from the front end, abstraction also basically trying to do the same thing. Well, the only thing is that abstraction is actually internally trying to send the signal to encapsulation. Encapsulation is doing the purpose, the service for you. Okay. Is that clear? Anybody has any questions on abstraction encapsulation? I think Lavanya wanted to talk something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can I give an example? How far my understanding is the abstraction is something. For an example, if I'm starting a car to drive, the engine runs, the process, what happens inside the engine, what happens inside the engine is called encapsulation. The process happens inside.
Okay, that's correct. That's correct. So what you do is you keep the key and you start basically the car, right?
Yeah.
So you are exposed with a key with some kind of a hole where you insert that and you start it. That is a kind of interface being given to the end user from the car perspective. but as soon as you turn this key, the input will be sent to the engine, and engine start, and you are able to basically see the audio system coming up, your AC is coming up, everything is done without all this being processed at the engine level, or basically in the front part of your car. But what you're trying to do is only you're trying to basically start the car, right? So this starting of the car, basically it's like abstraction, but whatever happened in the back for getting that started, and whatever the post things which are happening, which you don't care how it is done, but you only care about is it happening or not, right? So as soon as you start the key, what is your expectation is, my engine should start, my AC should start, and automatically my auto lock system should get automatically locked. So this is what your expectation from the end user, but how it is done, who is doing that, you are not exposed, or you don't care about it, right, Lavanya? Right? So that part, somebody is there to take all that responsible to handle that. That is nothing but encapsulation. So the point is that a lot of definitions you find on the book, lot of definitions you find on the internet, everything is referring to the same thing, but they have not defined in so matured way that you get a lot of confusion, different definitions. So don't get into those definitions. Just listen to me what I'm telling, and this is the best definition you can explain, even somebody asks you in the interview as well. Okay? Got it?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody has any question here? Okay. Let me go and ask Nirmala again. What is polymorphism, Nirmala?
Polymorphism. So same functions applied on different objects to give different results. So
no, hold on. Why you are referring to object? See, the point is now you are in
different class.
You are in a different level now. Nirmala, you cannot take whatever the words it comes to your head, right? So you should be very clean in your definition. So if you say object, people get confused. Why you're using objects in polymorphism? That is where you catch up, right? So very simple answer I want. What is a polymorphism? Again, I'm asking you, Nirmala.
Very cool feature of OOPS. Yeah. Very cool features of the OOPS. One same function applied on different class to give different results.
Different one action applied
same
different
function,
class.
Same
Okay,
function.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
For example,
right.
Indian.
Yeah, go ahead.
We gave an example like Indian talks different languages. They and about you gave that example in that day.
Yeah. That's
another example that I studied online. They gave another example like wash vegetables. That means we wash vegetable, potato in different way, spinach in different way. That's what. No, just when I studied, I gave that example.
Okay.
So, but the action,
Yeah, thank you, Nirmal. I think I got your what you're referring. Yeah. So to give a very precise answer for this, one action, different forms. Right? One action, different forms. So what you're trying to do is, I think I can mute you. So yeah. So what is polymorphism is you are trying to use an action in a different forms or different implementation. Like what Nirmala mentioned, like different people talk in different languages. So if I say human being, if I take a human being example here, human being basically talks many languages, right? Human being talk many languages, but if this human being become Arvind, if this human become Priyanka, as if this human being become K, the form will change, even though they are doing the same action of communicating to a person, but the communicating language is different. The action, not the communication is the same, but the language differs. So the implementation of communication is differing from different person to person. So that is nothing but polymorphism, where the action, one action, different forms means action is basically you're trying to communicate to somebody, but the form is something like you are using a different language to communicate. So the internal implementation or the internal basically the use case changes basically based on the person. So one action, different forms, one communication, different languages. Got it? That is nothing but polymorphism. Is that clear for everybody? Yeah, Asif want to talk something. Okay.
I just wanted to say yes, I got it.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Kea, you're clear? What is polymorphism? Lavanya, Nirmala, Priyanka. Okay. So let me move to inheritance. Oh, I don't want your web camera here. Okay. So, so what is inheritance? I'm giving to everybody. I don't want to go individually here. Anybody can answer to this question. Who want to take the opportunity to answer this question? What is inheritance? Nobody want to take the opportunity. Okay. Let me start with Lavanya only then. Okay, I see Priyanka. Okay. Tell me, Priyanka, what is inheritance?
So that's something which is and I'll take the example you gave us other day. It's something like my father. All the assets that my father has, I will inherit in that, and then my kid will inherit in whatever asset I have. So
Okay.
I think in this scenario, I think it's
Inheritance.
yeah.
Okay. So basically, technically, what you're saying is a pair in a basically B extends A or B inherits A, and then C inherits B, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And inheritance can be anything. Inheritance can be the attribute. Inherits can be a method as well. So action also. So you can inherit the property the properties like attributes, right? And the methods actions can be what he has performed in his lifetime, right? He become a doctor, whatever the actions he has done, you can blind as soon as you inherited, you can get completely access to that particular parent. In the same way, the below also C get access to all the features. Features means it's nothing but a combination of attribute and function, or attributes and actions. Okay. So, and the thing is that, so there's a limitation in Java for inheritance. Okay, so as we see that B inherits A, right? And I say C inherits B, but C cannot inherit A and B at a time. Okay, it's a one-to-one relation we see from top to bottom. We don't have two-to-one relation in the inheritance. Java won't permit you that. So again, I repeat you, one-to-one inheritance only happens in Java. We cannot have two-to-one inheritance in Java. Is that clear? So C cannot inherit A comma B. Is that clear? Okay.
But C cannot inherit B, right?
Pardon?
C cannot inherit B. C can inherit B, right?
Yeah, C can inherit B, but C cannot inherit every time A comma B. So what it has to be done is B should inherit A and then C can inherit B. So that by default C get inherit both A and B. But you can explicitly, you cannot say that I want C cannot go and say I want to inherit A comma B at a time. So what is the workflow we have to do is we have to make sure that B inherit A, and then again you have to do C inherit B, so that B anyhow it got by default B also got inherited from gets inherited from A, so by default C get inherited both, but that is a one-to-one flow, right? So first B should inherit A and then C should inherit B. But what I'm referring is I cannot say C inherits A comma B. That won't happen. So if B is not inheriting A, okay, let's assume that B is not inheriting A, but still you want to inherit both A comma B, that won't work in Java. So the other flow is you have to make sure that B should inherit A, then you should inherit B. Got it?
But C can inherit A, right?
Huh?
C can inherit A.
Yeah, directly C can inherit A. Only one-to-one relation. So C can inherit only A. Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll show you the examples. Don't worry. Theoretically, I'm talking about what is inheritance here. All these things will be showcased with the code example so that you get complete understanding what I'm referring here. Okay. So, can I proceed further? Any questions till here? Just give me a response on the chat. Yes, yes. Yeah.
Arvind?
Yeah. Who is this? Lavanya?
Can A can inherit B or C?
No, that's what I'm saying. You can have only one-to-one relation. Okay, hold on. I'll tell you. See, very simple, right? I don't have a diagram to explain that. So, very simple, right? When I say one-to-one relation, what does that means? Think that A, B, and C are there. A, B, and C are. A is A is one class, B is one class, and C is one class, right? So, what was your question, Lavanya? Lavanya, what was your question?
A can inherit B or C, right?
Ah, yes, or. That's correct. You cannot have and, you can have only or. Yeah, that's correct. Got it?
Yeah.
So, okay. So A can inherit, so let me do that. B can inherit A, or C, we can do that. And A can inherit B or C. Okay, and C can inherit. Based on your requirement, anything can be shuffled, anybody can become parent, anybody can become child here. So, but C cannot inherit A and B. Is that clear? Yeah. So let me proceed further and let me go and talk about how you execute your code. What is the requirement you need to have to execute your code, and how you see something something you can see on the console. So let me talk about something about Java runtime environment and JVM and so on stuff. So I'll open my code here. So we have compiled this code, and then we need to execute this code. So let me execute this code. So as I told you, as soon as you compile this code, you need to see one more file get generated, which has an extension of dot class, which will have the byte code, because as soon as you compile a Java code, it will generate a byte code. Okay, now this byte code has to be given to the JVM so that it can convert to an executable code, and basically that executable code will get executed on your environment or in your operating system. So the point is that when I say byte code getting executable code means somewhere again there will be compilation is happening, because as soon as this byte code given to the JVM, before it converts to the executable code, it should see that this bytecode, whatever it is coming to the JVM, before converting to the executable code, is it that code is basically is as per the standard of your operating system, right? Because if that code which is going to convert to an executable code, if that code is not in sync with the operating system, then the bytecode the bytecode will not convert it, because JVM will say that the code what I'm getting as a bytecode cannot be converted to executable code, because the code whatever the requirement of the operating system is not fulfilled at the compilation. When I say compilation, first the two steps happen in the JVM. First thing is it compiles this bytecode, and second thing it's basically converts it bytecode to the executable code, and then it executes on operating system. So if you see, the compilation is happening two times from the end user perspective. Why? Because as soon as you write a Java code, first you're doing a Java compilation using a Java C. But the Java C, even though it's compiling, it's not converting to executable code. It is converted into a bytecode. Now this bytecode is giving to the JVM. Now the JVM will take the headache of compiling that bytecode. Why? Because it has to see that the code is as per the requirement, as per the standards of the operating system. So again, the bytecode will be compiled at the JVM, and if the bytecode is as per the standards of that operating system, JVM will take a headache of executing that code onto the operating system. So this will be one more question they may be asking you: how many times the Java code is compiled? You need to say 2 times. If somebody asks how many times the Java code get compiles during its execution, in the whole workflow of execution, you can say that it get compiled 2 times. One, to convert that the first thing is getting that to bytecode. The second thing is getting that bytecode to executable code. So in 2 phases of its life cycle, the Java get compiled. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, so we see that Java code is compiled 2 times, right? One at the JDK level, one at the JRE level. Okay, at the JDK level, the compilation happens at a time. So what happens is it just compiles the code. It's a compiler. Compiler basically it compiles the whole block of code at a time. So the point is, well, there is a 2 things. One is a compiler, one is interpreter. Maybe you may be listening these terms. Maybe you have not listened this term. There are 2 ways of compiling the code. One compilation is offline compilation, where you're doing with the Java. No, you're basically trying to put Java C and then giving the Java file, and when you enter this, there's a bytecode get generated, but it is not actually that code is not executing. Only what it is doing is it's just compiling the code and generating that code, making that code ready to execute, but it is not executing it, right? So whenever you compile a code, what is happening is you basically trying to write the code and you compile it, and once the compilation is successful, there will be one file generated which is ready to execute, right? But there's on-fly process in the system, that is something like it compile and execute in one shot. So what happens is, whenever you give a Java program, what happens, it will compile it, and if the compilation is successful, it will execute. So on-fly process where it get compiles and executed. So there is no place where you can see that it doesn't have 2 steps. But if you see on the compiler level, on the offline level, offline process, you're compiling and executing. In on-fly level, you're just trying to compile, but internally it is executing also. So the offline and on-fly process. Offline, you have 2 steps to execute. On-fly, you have only 1 step to compile and execute. Here 2 steps means compile and execution. There only 1 step. You just give command, and that command will take care of compilation execution. So when you see these 2 processes, when you basically trying to compile your code using Java C, that is an offline process where it is just compiling the code and keep the code ready for execution. But when you see from the JRE perspective, as I told you, internally JVM is actually compiling that byte code, and then it is trying to convert to executable code, and then it's trying to execute that code on an operating system. So there the JRE is doing an on-fly process where it is taking your byte code, compiling it and executing it. So this is one of the good example of talking about an offline on-fly. When I say offline, this is something we talk about compiler. So compilation, we say compiler process. When we talk about on-fly process, that is nothing but an interpreter. Interpreter is something, what it is doing is it is compiling and executing data. Is that clear? What is offline on-fly process?
Yes.
Yes. What about others?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So JRE will basically from the end user perspective, you only see JRE is actually trying to execute your code, but internally it is also compiling. It is again compiling the code, and it's actually trying to execute your code. So let's do how this execution is happens, and how we can see the results coming up. Second thing is, every environment need one life cycle, right? So let's take a good example of you want to prepare a biryani, right? So you want to prepare a biryani, you keep all the ingredients ready, you mix everything and everything is done, but it won't execute until you're keeping that on the stove, right? So until you're not keeping that on the stove and cook it, you don't, there's no meaning of, there's no sense of keeping that ingredients ready, because until it's not cooked you cannot eat. Even if you're going to make a chapati, whatever the thing you see, right, you're trying to basically so see what from a daily life, you first get the things ready, and then you go for preparation. So there is some life cycle is involved in every process. So every process will have a life cycle, and in that life cycle there is some area where you really execute it. When I say preparation of the biryani, maybe we'll be making a lot of things, mixing, cleaning, everything we'll be doing in the preparation of biryani, but it only comes to the shape when you basically try to cook it. So cooking is something which is actually the actual execution part, where that workflow has to be done to make sure that the biryani comes to your mouth. So in the same way, even though you write the code, you write functions, methods, you do full hangama on Java part, but whenever this thing gives to JRE, JRE also will follow some life cycle. When I talk about life cycle, there will be kind of stuff it requires to execute it. So it is looking something to basically to execute it. It will be looking something, a particular block of stuff where it is. So if you see preparation of biryani, everything is important, right? Your chicken is important, your rice is important, masala is important, and also your basically your stove is important, your cooker is important, everything is important in this process. But there is some process where it actually executes it. Maybe it can be a cooker or a stove. In the same way, whenever you're trying to execute a code, there is some life cycle JRE follows. That life cycle is something but a method which you need to include in your class. So that method you need to include in your class, and in that method only you can execute that particular, whatever the execution, whatever the things you want to see on the console, it has to be included in that method. I'll repeat that. JRE will have a life cycle where it will be looking in a particular block of code, where it will set that okay, that particular block of code only it looks for execution, and if that block of code is not there, even though if you write 1,000 lines of code, there is no meaning for JRE to get things execute. So it won't execute that particular code whatever you've written. But if you include that 1,000 lines of code in a particular block of codes, and if the JRE finds that block of code in your class, then the code get executed. So what is happening is Java JRE will Java runtime environment also will have a life cycle. It follows, and whenever you're going to compile and execute a Java code, we have to follow that life cycle, so that whatever the purpose you're writing, whatever the business logic you are writing, it should fulfill. Right, you're getting my point, that if you don't have a cooker, even though you prepared everything whatever required for the biryani. If you don't have a cooker, there's no meaning, right? It's wasted. There's no meaning. Even though you cannot say I prepared the biryani until you have a cooker. In the same way, the Java runtime environment also needed some kind of an executional block of part where you need to keep all these things inside of that so that the Java runtime environment executes it. So what is that block of code? What is that method the Java runtime environment is looking for is nothing but a public static void main. So, but before I go to public static void main, let's keep these things in mind because many people they don't know what is function. There's many people they don't know what is attribute. So I will hold for now till people become comfortable on that attributes, classes, and methods. But just keep in your mind that Java runtime environment also will follow some life cycle to execute your code. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what about others? Got it. Okay. So let me go to the code now. Okay. So this part was clear, right? Whenever you want to write a Java code, it should be started with a keyword called class, and you need to give a name to that particular program called sample Java program, and there will be one opening brace and one closing brace. Okay, this is a simple program. This is a basic to basic program what we can write in Java. And once you write this code, you basically go and save this file. Okay, and the name of the file should be the same whatever the name what you defined for this class, that is sample Java program, and you should have an extension called .java. Okay, and then you take all files here and then save it. Okay, now this part is clear.
Yes.
Okay, so one question I want to ask you, everybody here, you are on the laptop or you're on a system? Are people still on the phone?
I'm not on a laptop. I'm just watching actually.
So there will be a lot of there are a lot of homework. Not a homework. I want you to use some coding. What I'm doing, you have to sync with me. Okay, so
Yeah,
I get the things as soon as possible because I don't show. I want you also to type my code in some time. So
okay.
and because if you don't type this code and when you're going through the video and when you practice it, you sometimes you become completely blind and you cannot get the answer at the time when you get stuck
I
in it.
see. Once.
Yeah, so I want everybody should be on laptop, and whatever the instructions installation I have given you, it has to be done. Okay, I think Kea has a laptop. I see that Lavanya has a laptop, Nirmala has a laptop. Oh, I think Drupal dropped. Okay, and yeah, okay, that's great. So I think Syed, you need to get the things a bit faster because I think everybody on the accepts to everybody on the same page now. So okay, so today you can set it up, and by tomorrow you go through my videos. You have all the setup and how to do that. Okay, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Sure. Thank you.
yeah. Now let's go and talk about the programming structure. Let's not talk about Java. Let's talk about programming structure. As I told you, we have attributes and we have actions. When I say attributes and actions, they are completely dependent, right? They have a very good relation between, when I say attribute and action, I say distance. Distance is my attribute. Like if I say distance is an attribute and walk is an action. So distance, like walk, we say that I have walked this much of distance, right? So distance is basically a data what an action is referring. So distance is nothing but an attribute or a property which action performs, right? Which action performs or which action creates. So if I say this here, very simple. So how you define attribute? Okay, so we talk about different things, right? Attribute So we talk about numbers, right? When I say 1, 2, 3, 4, all these are numbers. When I say A, B, C, D, these are alphabets. When I say Arvind, it's a combination of alphabets, right? It can be, yeah. So what is happening is, based on our use case, the languages, they have defined some standard definition for these attributes, and we are going to follow them, and we'll be using extensively. Most of the time we'll be using a character. I'll show you what is character first. But thing is that numbers, we talk about numbers, we talk about names, we talk about alphabets. So this is what we regularly use in our daily life, and we copy paste it. So we'll copy paste most of the times the content from here to there. You copy password, you copy username, you try to type some numbers. Even though when you're teaching your kid also, you do a lot of discussion of alphabets, numbers, alphanumeric numbers, and so on. So what happens is, but from the language perspective, this been differentiated with different sayings, okay, and those standards we have to follow when you have a requirement of number, when you have a requirement of alphabet, or when you have a requirement of combination of alphabet. When I say name is a combination of alphabets, right? When I say Arvind, ARVIND, so it's a combination of 6 alphabets. Okay, when I say number, it can be 100, 200, 1 lakh, 20 lakhs, all these are numbers for you. Okay, now let's see how you, let me start with the basic, like number and combination of alphabets, and then let's go in detail what are the other attributes we will define, or I'll ask you to get the information of that. Okay, so let's start, see how we can define an property or an attribute in a class. Okay, so first thing is, you need to say what kind of property you want to define. You want to define a property called, you want to define a property for a number, or you want to define a property for a alphabet, or you want to define a property for combination of alphabets. So let's define let's define a property for a number. So to define a property for a number in Java, we say as an int. Int is nothing but an integer. So we say we define a number as int here. So how you write that is int, and you give some variable name. You need to represent this with some unique name, right? Suppose like I have a distance. So distance is something what a representation of this number, because if I say, if I'm going to calculate a rectangle, I need okay, let me do a calculation of rectangle. What is length, breadth, and height? So even though if you say length, breadth, and height, all these are numbers only, right? So but they have to define with a different name. Every variable what you define should have a unique name, so that you can use in your implementation. So let me talk about calculation of a rectangle. It means like what do you say, the size of a rectangle, or something, like something we can see that, or what is the length of the rectangle, or maybe something. We can take an example here. Now int is something referring to a number. So let me do and let me define this number with some name, int distance. Okay, int distance. Now I'll give some value, because when I say Arvind can walk 2 kilometers, right? If I say Arvind can walk 2 kilometers, means what is the 2 kilometers is nothing but the distance what he can travel, and the 2 is a number, and that the 2 is nothing but a distance what he can travel. So distance is something like which is a representation of that thing what you travel, right? So int distance is equal to 2. Got it? So I'll repeat again. Int is a number which you are representing that with some variable declaration. Distance is not a standard. Whatever the variable you can declare, you can declare. You can say int distance, or int anything you can define here. Int travel distance also. So this variable is up to you, whatever you want to define, and then assign some value to the variable. But int is something which is a standard. You cannot use whatever you want, because every language will follow some standard to represent that kind of value. So I'm using a number is a 2, so then that is what where you have to use integer here. Okay, now I'm going to basically I'll try to create an action for that, right? So when I say I have defined the property, now I'm going to create an action here. So when I say an action, I have to define a method here. I have to method. So action is technically called as a method in Java. So in that method, basically take this property and define something for you, or basically do a business logic for you. Method is something which do a business logic or processing of this data, whatever you're giving as an input. The processing of data is nothing but the data is nothing but the travel distance, the property or a data or a state, whatever the technical terms I'm going to use. Let's remember I may be using a property or an attribute or a data or a state. These 4 terms are referring to the same thing called travel distance here. So I may be using these terms based on the requirement, but whenever you find these 4 terms coming out of my mouth, you need to understand that this I'm referring to a property here. Okay, so now I'm going to define a method here. What is that method is void walk. I'm also giving a name to my method. Walk is something user defined. You can give any name, whatever the name you want to give, you can give to that method. So I'm going to say walk. Method will have an opening brace, opening and closing like this. Okay, in the same way how we have defined a class called opening brace and closing brace, you have to do the same. What is this? Okay, so now if you see that this block of code is a method now. Okay, so method, see, class is something like you have given a keyword called class and the class name and opening and closing brace. For a method also you should have a keyword called void and the name of the method, and you should have this kind of block of opening and closing. And for the class, how you have opening brace, opening, and so why we opening brace, closing braces, you're trying to define some block of code inside of that. So here also in the method also you have to use the same syntax called opening brace and closing brace. And the second thing is that a method should be defined inside the class. So when I say method should define inside the classes, if you see I have a class opening brace here and I'm closing this here. Inside of the class only I'm defining a property and also I'm defining a method here, right? So void, I'll come there, what is void, but let's keep that void for now. So void walk is a name of the method which you are defining, and then you have this opening and closing stuff, and then you are trying to open a block of opening brace and closing brace to write your code here. Now what I write this action for some purpose, right? Action is something to do something, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print something here saying that okay, what is this now? So whenever you want to print something on the console, or whenever you want to see something as an output on the console, because when I say Java and this code, you want to see something on the console coming out of that. So we will, in many languages we say print to println. So these things will basically try to print something on the console. I'll come there, don't get confused the statement. So system.out.println, basically whatever you sent, whatever the input you send to this println method, that will be printed on the console. So what is this travel distance here? So what I'm trying to say is you try to print something on the console of this travel distance, but what is this travel distance is coming from this property, right? So travel distance is equal to 2. What happens is, as soon as you say the println to print something of travel distance, so it will print this 2 because the travel distance is holding the value of 2. Okay, so println is something, it's a call where it will try to print something whichever you give as an input. So here the input is the travel distance, but travel distance, what the value it has is 2. So what happens as soon as you execute this code, it will basically print you 2 on the console. Okay, so I have defined a property with value, and then I have defined an action, and inside an action I have given a call to print that what distance I have walked. Okay, now I'm going to save this code. Any questions here from the syntactical part, from the coding perspective? No response. Lavanya, you have any questions? Asif, you have any questions? Kia, you have any questions? Hello?
This travel distance, the spelling doesn't matter, or this has to be like this? Because I think travel, it should be 1 L. You have 2 L there.
No, it's 2 L's.
It's 2 L's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's 2 L's. Yeah.
Traveled distance.
Yeah, or we can do that. What we can do is just to get out of the confusion, I'll remove this distance now, and I'll use the same distance here so that now it's clear. Say it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a variable, right? You can define whatever the variable you want, but you are representing that variable as a type, which is called as integer, that is a number, and you're assigning a value. We are assigning a value of the type only. That is nothing but a number, that is 2.
Oh, okay.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Who is this?
Hello, this is Kea.
Tell me, Kia.
Yeah, I just didn't understand why is it written system.out? Why? Means what's the reason for that?
Let's not go off that detail, because to reach that you need a lot of information that it will come on the way. Only thing you remember that the println, just only remember this println, this part. Let's not go with it, but you need to just follow this syntax for now. The println is trying to print something on the console, and what you are trying to print on the console is a distance. So what distance is what distance has the values, so automatically the console will see 2. Okay, is it clear, Kia?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Lavanya, is that clear?
Yes.
Nirmala?
Yes.
Okay. Priyanka? Okay, great. Now let me compile this code and we'll see what will be shown now. Now it got compiled, so the program got, I have copy pasted the code as well. If possible, try to compile it. Just replace your Java code what you have with this code and just compile it. So I have compiled this code now. So I want to execute this code. So how I'm going to execute this Java sample program. So you see the dart class. The only thing what you need to do is you need to remove this extension. Only thing you have to give the name, not any extension. When you're trying to execute the code, you should not give any extension, the dart class. Just give the name of the file, that is sample Java program, and then compile it. Now you see that. So I'm going to whenever you're going to execute this code, Java and that particular file name, okay, but not the no extensions when you're trying to execute it. But during the compilation, you're saying .java, but during the execution, no extension. Just give name of the file Java and space sample Java program. When I'm trying to execute this code, now you see it is saying that the main method not found in the class sample Java program. Please define the main program as public static void main. That is what I was telling about the life cycle of the GRE. So it is looking a method for to basically execute your code. You're getting my point? It is actually trying to see a block of code where it can go there and execute it. So that's what I took the example of cooker or the stove. So the public static environment is nothing but a cooker where you're trying to put all your ingredients, whatever you have defined in the class, and you're trying to execute it or trying to cook them. So what it is expecting is, it is expecting this method should be defined in the class. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this method now from here. Now I'm going to write here. Okay, if you see this also, don't ask me what is public, what is static, void and main. I'm going to cover all this stuff in coming session. Just see just blindly follow the structure. No, public, static, void, main. You have string, some this thing and something stuff is there. You don't get it. Just not concentrate on this and don't ask me those questions, because if I explain also you don't understand them. So let's stick to the structure for now. So public static void main, you follow this structure, and being this is showing as a method because you have this opening and bracing. So this is also like walk, but inside of this we have some other content which this particular action is having. So let's again opening brace and a closing brace, because this is also showcasing like a method. Got it? Because the method will have like this. In the same way here also you see void, you see void, and you see method, and you see the walk here, and you have opening and closing like this, and then you have opening brace and closing brace like this. So this is also referring to an action. Now what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to call this now. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to call that walk inside this action. What is that action? Is a main action. So what I'm going to do is, in the same way, as soon as you have everything, you keep in the cooker and it start executing. In the same way, in the before you have created all the ingredients, you have prepared all the mixing stuff, like you have said the distance is 2 kilometers, and then you said that I have walked for 2 kilometers. So ingredients are all ready. So you want to execute it. So what you're going to do is, you're going to keep that thing inside this method, and then basically you're trying to execute that. So when I say execute that, you need to call that particular method here. So how I'm going to call this method is like this, walk. Okay, so you are defining a property, you are defining a method here, and then once you have done this, you're trying to execute, you're trying to basically execute it. So for execution, you need to call that particular action. So because until you're not calling that action, there's no meaning, right? Even though you have a car, you need to start it. In the same way, you have defined, you have designed a car, you have made the car, and then until you are not keeping your queue and you're not starting it, there's no meaning of creating a car or manufacturing a car. In the same way, you have set the distance, you have said how much you walk, but you need to execute it. So until you don't walk, you cannot say I have traveled 2 kilometers. That is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to basically trying to execute that. So that is what I'm going to do. When I want to execute it, that execution has to be done in a particular life cycle, that is nothing but public static void main. So that is where I'm trying to walk. See, if I'm switching on the key, and when I have to travel, right? When I want to travel, I need a road where I can travel. So road is nothing but the public static void main, where you have to take this car onto the road, and then only you can drive the car. I cannot drive the car on water, or I cannot drive the car on the air. So car has to be driven on the road. So a car, it has its own life cycle to execute. In the same way, public static void main also, it's a road where the Java runtime environment looks for, and you need to execute, or you need to basically generate or execute your code in this particular block of code. That is nothing but walk. So walk is nothing but you're traveling, you're trying to keep that in implementation. Implementation is done, but it has to be executed. So the execution we are trying to do in public static environment. How we are doing this is we have called this method in this particular block of code called main method. So public static main is a standard and a formatted structure that you cannot change. It has to be followed standard whatever the class you're going to write. If you want to use that class for execution, means if you want to use that class to execute, because execution is on other side, implementation is on other side. You can implement it, but until it is not put on the thing, the implementation doesn't have any sense. In the same way, even though you have defined a property, you have defined a method, you have done all the business logic, but it has to be executed. That execution is nothing but public static environment here. Okay, so I have written the public static environment, the lifecycle expectation method of JRE, and then I have called this method inside this block of code that nothing but walk here. Okay, now I'm going to compile this code again because I have added 2 lines of code here. What is that? Okay, so this is something I will discuss when I'm going to get this static content. Okay, so for now what we'll do is okay, so what we'll do is for now, let's see, without having any without having any property, without having any action, I want to see just on simple out on the console. What I'm going to do is I'm going to block this code for now like this. So what I'm going to remove this code for now. Let's do that. Okay, now I'm going to remove this code for now. So if you see from first we have seen the basic structure of Java class, a class with keyword with the name of the file and opening brace and closing brace. Now we also added the requirement of the JRE where it can execute, that is nothing public static environment. So this is a bare minimum Java code where you are going to use and going to execute. So what I'm going to do is, instead of calling all the property and method, let me put here the system dot for now, and then I will come there like this here. So what I'm going to do is, this is my first program. Okay, so if you see there, when I was trying to compile something, it was saying I don't have a main method. You not compile. When I'm going to execute it, it was saying I don't have a main method. Now if you see this code, I have a main method defined. Inside of that main method or main function, I'm putting a system.out.println with some information called this is my first program. Okay, now let's not think about the property distance, let's not think about work stuff something. Let's think about a public static, how a public static environment works for you. Okay, so what I have done, defined, I have a class, I have defined a class with some name, and then a public static environment which is a standard method which has to be defined to get the things executed. Okay, and then inside of that particular method I have given some system.out.println saying this is my first Java program. Okay, let me put that as well just to get these things. Okay, any questions here? Let's not think about your distance and walk. I'm just talking about, let's see this, and any questions still this on this particular block of code. Any questions? Hello?
Yes, I'm following.
Okay, you're following?
Mm-hmm.
Now you understand this block of code?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Kia? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. Yeah.
Lavanya, Nirmala, Priyanka, is that clear for you? Okay. So now, very simple. I have a class called sample Java program, and then I have a public static environment, which is a standard method. And then inside of that, I have written one instruction or one line of code where I'm trying to say println with some information I want to showcase on the console, right? And then let me compile this code again, and let's see what happens. Okay, now I have compiled this code, and I'm going to execute this code. You see, as soon as I execute my code, what you see on my console, this is my first Java program, right? You're seeing that before, when I was trying to keep the same instruction in the walk, it was saying that I don't have any public static void main. But if you see here, whatever the instructions I have given in the main method is getting executed, because the point is that the Java runtime environment can only execute the instructions which are defined inside of public static void main. Even though if you write some lakhs of code outside of this public static void main, Java runtime environment can't understand until that block of code is been called inside of this. Okay, so let me do the same example here again. Instead of defining a method and attribute out in the class, I'll try to define something inside the method now. So I'm going to do that now in the same way how we have done that. What I'm going to do now, I'll say int distance is equal to 2. Okay, now, and I'm going to the system.out.println, I say distance here. Okay, whatever I have done in the class, defining a variable and defining an action in a method, I'm just trying to use that two things in the single method as a part of the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm declaring a variable called distance, which is a type of integer, which is nothing, which is an integer, which is a type of number, and I'm assigning a value of 2, and then I'm trying to call using a println that distance. So distance is nothing but 2. So what I have to see on my console is a 2 now. So let me save this, and again I'll compile this code. Okay, now I'll get 2. See that? So this is a very basic code what we see from the Java perspective, where I have a class defined, I have a public static main defined. So you are actually trying to give a complete runtime environment, and you can write your block of code inside this public static void main. So whatever the write, you want to sort the numbers, you want to add 2 numbers, you want to delete 2 numbers, or you want to do whatever the stuff you can do inside the public static void main, whatever business logic you want to write, you can write inside this block of code. And as I told you, every property type is been defined as standard type, and every type of attribute, it has to be defined in a standard way. As number is int, alphabet is called as character, and string is nothing but a combination of characters. So I'm going to showcase that now. Now as of now, I have showcased you the number. Now I'm going to showcase you the character. So I say char, I say char something like alphabet. This is what I'm declaring. This, can you please go on mute? Okay, so char alphabet, and now I can say B here. Okay, now let me basically print this alphabet. Okay, let me compile this code. So I have defined a character. Character is nothing but a single alphabet. So a character is a data type or a type of attribute which can only take one alphabet at a time. So it's a single alphabet. What you can define char alphabet as C, D, E, whatever the alphabet you have. that can be given as a value. So char alphabet, you're giving a value as B. Okay. Now I'm trying to print that B. I'm going to trying to print that alphabet. So when I say going to alphabet, the value of the alphabet is B here. So you have to see the B on the console. Okay, let me do that. So as soon as you see, there will be a compilation issue for you. Why? Because B is not a value until it follows some standards to define it. So when I say define it, number 2 is fine. Number is 2 is fine, but for the character, I cannot define how I define the number. So what we have to see, whenever you define a character, it has to be use some syntax called like this. Okay, I'll show you that now again. You see this. So this is how you define a character. Seeing that? This is how you define the character. So this is how you are to define the character, and this is what the syntax you can define a character. Okay, so let me compile this again. Now the code get compiled and I'm going to execute this code. Now you see B here. So what is happening is, so whatever the attribute, whatever the type of attribute you're considering, that value also should follow some standards. Okay, if I say number, you can just give the number without giving anything in the front and the back, but when you're defining a character, it has to be given with some comma in the front and the back. Okay, and the front, beginning and at the end. Okay, and now let me go a combination of characters. I was talking about a number, an alphabet, and a combination of alphabet. That alphabet is called as string here. Now string name, I say name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Arvind. Okay, now I'm going to print this name here. Okay. What will be the output? Let me see. Immediately again you'll have a compiling error saying that this is not the right format to define a string. It will say I don't find a variable called Arvind, because it is considering Arvind as a variable in the place of a value, because name, string name is a attribute which you are assigning a value called Arvind. So for string also we need to follow some standards. When you are assigning some value also should have some standards to follow. That is nothing but like this. Okay, so you see that integer doesn't require anything, just you can define some number, it will work. For character you have some syntax to follow. For string also you need to follow some syntax. So when I'm going to save this and I'm going to compile this, see, you get Arvind. Is that clear till now? So our whole life, our whole training will actually travel in between strings, integers, and characters. So that's the reason I thought my first coding session should start with integer, character, and string, and we get a lot of stuff in the meanwhile. But let's see about the basic attributes of Java. So int distance is equal to char alphabet is equal to B, string name is equal to Array. So now what is happening is, if you want to see all these things printed out, you can have multiples of these printlns in the code, saying like this. So I'll say distance, I'll say alphabet. Now I'm able to see all my attributes which are defined with some value, and I'm able to see those values onto my console. Okay, again I'm going to compile this code. You see 2 came, B came, and Arvind came. Any questions here? No, we can't do that. We can do that, I'll come there. Like, we can do that, but I'll come there. Okay. Okay. Till here, is that clear?
Yes.
Yes. So distance, alphabet or name, these are user defined. You can do which, you can give whatever you want. Int, char, string or standard, which are defined by Java, which is representing the type of attribute. On the right side, the values based on the type of attribute you're defining, you have to define the value with int. When I say int distance, you're defining the distance as an integer or a number, so you have to give the number as a value. Char alpha, what you're saying, this is a character, so alpha, so character, so you have to give it a value called character, that should be, that is nothing but b. A string is also an attribute type, which we have given attribute declaration. You are declaring a variable called name, and for that you are giving a value of foreign, which is a type of string. Okay, then I'm trying to put that system.out.println so that those values are being properly assigned and I'm able to see them properly get going. So that's what the reason I put a system.out.println, then I have printed distance, I have printed alphabet, and I have printed the name. Any doubts here? Lavanya, Nirmala, Kea.
Arvind, is that the public static void main is the method?
Yes, it's a method, because you see that if you see the method will have this syntax, I told you, right? You see that now?
Yeah.
I have something addition inside of that, but the method structure is like this. See, the method structure like this. I told you, right? Is that clear? And inside of this opening and closing brace, you write your code whatever you want. So that is what I'm doing in public static void main. Okay? Is that clear? Hello?
Yeah.
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 Nirmala, any questions here?
No.
No. Okay.
All.
I think Drupal dropped off. Priyanka dropped. I don't know. Anyway, so let's stop here now today, and tomorrow also there'll be a session. So we'll continue from here. So I'm going to. Who is this? Hello. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to paste this code also as well on the GoToMeeting. So try to compile this code and get executed for tomorrow. Okay. If any, let's tomorrow I'll try to again show you how you define an attribute at the class level, how you define a method at the class level, and then how you can call that inside a method. I'm going to talk about that. So let's stick to the base bare bone program for today. So a class with a public static environment, and inside you have all these variables defined, and you're trying to print them inside. Okay. So any questions before I end this call? I'm going to share this recording. Don't worry. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello,
Yeah.
Arvind?
Yeah.
Yeah, after if I want to execute this code, do I need to copy and paste it in the terminal?
No, this is the code. It's a code, right? This is a Java program. You have written one Java program, right?
Yes.
You have to use.
Yes.
You just remove that content, whatever there in that file, and just paste this content, and then save it, and then compile and execute it. Okay. Compilation is Java C, the name of the file with the extension called Java, and then Java and the name of the program to execute. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to be a little bit speed up here, because the point, I think you have maybe detached from IT from long time maybe, so you need to come up to the speed. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
It's very simple, right? Whenever you write a code, you need to create a class. So you create a class and you write your code, and then you have to save that code as a file giving the same name of the class, and then you have to compile it, and then you have to execute it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Got it. You can see my video also. Maybe you get that more information. So any
Yes, okay.
questions on this area? What Kia is referring, or other people are clear? Got it. Okay. So you can define as many programs you want. You can define. It depends on a use case. You can define different programs and different classes for a use case, and then you can go ahead. See, if you say same thing, I'm going to show you again. I'm going to open a notepad. Let's see what I'm going here. I'm showing now. Notepad. Oh, sorry, what I'm saying. Notepad means what I'm getting here. Okay. I'm going to get the notepad here. Assume that I have written a code like this in my notepad. Okay. Control C, Control V here. Now I don't say sample Java program, first Java program. I'll say I'm going to change my class called first Java program. Okay. Now I have written this code. I'm going to save this file. As I told you, the name of the file should be the same of the class name of the class. So I'm going to do save. Again here the first Java program, and I should have an extension called Java, and in the save as tab take all types, because if you don't take all types it takes as a text. So then, as I told you, you define you just create a folder I told you called core Java training, and then go and save this file there. Okay, now if you go inside that particular folder, now you see again there is one more file called generated called first Java program. Now come to the terminal, go to that particular folder. What I'm going to do, I'm going to compile this program, first Java program, compile, and now again I'm going to execute this. Got it? Is that clear now?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So you can have thousands, hundreds of Java code, whatever you can define in the class, and then that class has to be saved as a file if you want to compile and execute. Okay, got it? So okay, I have somebody text. Okay, so I think maybe I'm imagining that you're able to follow me, and I'm imagining that you don't come with surprising questions for tomorrow. Okay, so
I wanted to ask you, Arvind, if you can somehow send me the PDF file for all those definitions, we were talking about earlier, encapsulation, extraction, and compilation and everything.
no, I don't have the PDF format, because I have one single file which has all the content. Okay, but you can go through my video.
Okay.
I have a video which is been uploaded into the cloud, because definitions, I don't believe in definitions. I believe in how you basically define in a broader way. But
because I missed the first session, I think.
okay,
so
that's
I
what
was just wanted to go.
you have a video. You have a video where you can ask Madhu to share. She will, and I think I can text her immediately, because already it's in the cloud. It takes some a minute time to share you. You can just go through the video before tomorrow's session. Okay.
Okay.
Got it?
All right.
Okay. I think everybody
Thank
got.
you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions here?
Arvind,
Yeah.
is that same link?
Huh?
Is that same link for tomorrow's session?
Yeah, just follow the same link, whatever I have given you today, same meeting ID, just follow that. Okay?
As soon as you finish the session, can you upload the video?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then I think you're pretty much clear what I taught you today. Let's meet tomorrow. Take care. All the best. Bye bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye
night.
bye. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.